Hello and welcome to the Beer Jerk Beer of the Week Drink Along. I'm Luke and this week we are drinking Nimbus from Black Sands. Pretty cool looking can. This chap in the sky, again created by another talented West Auckland artist whose name will be on the can because Black Sands always credit the artist. This is Stephen Cascalera. So nice work on the art there. So you may remember drinking along with us last week when I had Craig as a very special guest. So the Black Sands crew are Craig and his dad, Ian, and also Matt, who's joined them recently as an assistant brewer. So very small team of, well I say Ian. Ian is the founder and the heart of the business, but he's officially retired these days. I don't think he's really that retired. I think he still gets very involved in the brewery and the recipes and probably bossing Craig around here and there. So yeah, lovely family business over in West Auckland in Kelson. And obviously Black Sands name comes from those brilliant West Coast peaches. But this is a Hazy Pale Ale. And you can see from our beer jerk glass here, it's pretty hazy, pretty dense. As far as the colour goes, which in the early days of hazy IPAs and hazy pale ales, a lot of brewers really struggled to get a stable haze, and there were often lots of sort of jokes about brewers adding flour to their beers and sort of doing various things to get the haze to be stable. And it is a bit of an issue really, because you had all these beer fans that were excited about drinking hazy IPAs and hazy pales. But they drink a beer which would taste exactly as they expected, but the haze had fallen out. So often a lot of brew bars and pubs in general, the kegs would need a bit of a shake to get the suspended proteins to sort of jiggle around and get back into it. And there's a bit of a trend for beer drinkers to roll their cans of beer just to get the haze sort of equally spread through it when it's settled. But there are no such problems here with the dispersal of haze. It's a very nice looking beer. I hesitated for a moment there because a beer that looks like this was kind of horrible looking until quite recently, that people have wanted beers that look like an orange juice or look like a banana milkshake that's just you can't see through it. Brewers always wanted clarity, and you have all these various products. So of course you lager a beer if it's a lager to get real bright pin sharp clarity, but also you just have various kinds of things like isinglass to fine a beer. It's not often used these days, and especially not amongst craft brewers, but isinglass is made from the swim bladders of fish, and then you'd have finings, so like gelatin would be one as well, which is made from pig bones and products. So often a lot of vegans are concerned about having a truly vegan beer. But if you are vegan and you're watching this, know that people don't really use isinglass or gelatin these days to find their beers. People use Irish moss and organic vegan products to find their beers, if they even bother. But actually they generally won't bother, because even West Coast IPAs or lager type beers, even if there's a little bit of haze in there or just something in suspension, drinkers aren't that bothered, thanks to beers like this. So if you are a vegan, the only things you really need to worry about are milk sugar, really. There's a lot of pastry stouts and dessert type beers. Some brewers actually do put milk sugar in their hazy IPAs. So some brewers like Behemoth will be known for that. But again, if you put milk sugar in your beer, you legally are required to put it as an allergen on your label. I'm not going to say that everyone definitely does that, because some people may break the rules, but legally, if you use lactose or any other products that people may be allergic to, then you legally do have to say it on the label. Anyway, that's quite a tangent. Hazy beers became pretty popular in the last 10 years or so. And the earliest, so it was the hazy IPAs that led the way, then hazy pale ales followed, and I still don't think there is a BJCP official judging criteria for hazy pale ale. It's generally just the little brother of a hazy IPA. So a couple of notches lower in alcohol and a couple of notches lower in intensity of hop profile, basically, is what I would classify a hazy pale as, the little brother of a hazy IPA. And those first hazy IPAs from breweries like the Alchemist and their heady topper, it actually had it still has, a warning on the top of the can that says, drink from the can. And that's because in those early days in New England, people would pour a beer like this out into a glass and just think it looked disgusting. It just would be such it's kind of hard to imagine now what it was like 10 years ago to have a beer like this poured would really be pretty off-putting for a lot of beer drinkers. So it was, hence the drink from the can. And of course, if you drink it from the can, you don't get upset at the look of the beer, but you also miss out on so much of the aroma, which is such a main part of a beer like this. And the major part, I've talked about the appearance of these beers, but really it is about the aroma and about the taste. What really revolutionized, and I'm not using that word lightly, that beers like this have revolutionized craft beer. They've introduced so many more people into the world of beer. And alongside beers that taste like chocolate or taste like strawberries, beers that don't taste like beer, basically. Generally, if someone says that they don't like beer, that means one of two things, that they don't like shit beer, which often all taste the same, whether you're drinking a Stella Artois or a Steinlager or a Carlsberg, they all broadly taste like mass-produced lagers, which are, as I often say, the beers that are not easy to make necessarily, but I can very much understand why people would not want to drink those beers. Or they've tried craft beer, which until 10 years ago, they would determine it as being a very bitter, resinous West Coast IPA. And bitter flavours are very off-putting to a lot of people. And certain people are more sensitive to bitter flavours, and especially women who are way more likely to be super tasters that have a much broader palate and taste profile. But when you get things that are extreme, like a 1000 IBU West Coast IPA, it's probably not that nice. So these hazy beers came along that were all about aroma and flavour and no bitterness. I'm drinking this, there's almost no bitterness to be found here. It's just a soft, pillowy, cloudy body, hence the name, Nimbus clouds, and tons of aroma and flavour. So a lot of old stalwarts probably won't enjoy this. And it's become quite trendy these days. I'm in a few different sort of forums and Facebook groups. And recently, in the last year or two, there's been a real backlash against hazy pale ales. So if you're one of those people, sorry, hope you'll find something to enjoy in this beer, because it is very well made by wonderful people. And that's also a reason why we don't include many of these hazy beers in our subscription box, because there are lots of them. People love them, and they're 10 a penny. You go to, you look at the shelves in most shops, and they're just packed with these hazy beers, because it's what people want to drink. So I can see why a lot of people are just fucking sick of them. It's just kind of boring having these beers. But you will notice in our subscription box, 52 different beers every single year. You don't come across many. And when we do include one, it's when it's bloody good, basically. And this one is good. So there is no bitterness, but it's made with Citra and a whole bunch of Nectaron, which are both pretty interesting hops. So there'll be probably a small amount of Citra for bittering, but I haven't spoken to Craig about the recipe, but from the taste of it, very minimal. It's all about the aroma, the late hop additions, the dry hopping additions that really carry through to the final beer. So you really get the whole character of what was designed into the hops. So Citra is a hop that was actually only released in 2008. It seems like it's been around forever because it's so important. And from the Citra, that's where you're getting the real citrus flavors, but also things like rock melon, like lychee. It's just such a delicious hop, and it is an all-round hop, but you don't want to use too much of it for bittering because it really skews things. And it was a hop that was developed. It's a proprietary brand, and it was developed by I can't remember the name of the USA company that developed Citra, but I will remember it and I'll write it in the email and in the social posts. And then you've got Nectaron, which similarly was developed by plant and food research here in New Zealand by Ron Beatson, who spent his entire life, he's recently retired, spent his entire life developing and growing hops. And the story of Nectaron is one that lasted over 17 years. So it was first bred by Ron at the research sort of gardens and development center in 2004. So yeah, 4 years before Citra was even released. And it spent 17 years of being honed and being perfected and being spliced and bred, and then clones happening and doing test brews. So it was all these hops that go through the development, they get names that are just numbers. So it was known as, I think, Hort 4337, I think, for years. And brewers could get small amounts of it and they would test it. And Ron would make 50-litre batches and trial it, but it's, yeah, developing a new foodstuff, a new plant for commercial use is not a quick process. And Michael Donaldson at Hoppiness magazine did a really great write-up on it. So, and the NZ Beer Jokes Facebook group, I'll share to that really great article about the history of Nectaron. And if you hadn't guessed, Nectaron is named for Ron Beatson, and it's yeah, kind of tastes like nectar. It's a really fantastic new hop, and it's a special thing when new hops come out. These growers don't just release them willy-nilly. There's, for every hop that does come out and be a big superstar success like Citra and like Nectaron, there are dozens that fall by the wayside that just don't quite cut it. So yeah, 2 superstar hops that are used in the bill here, and yeah, used to great effect. So I'm going to stop waffling because my voice is going. Hopefully it's going to get better. It's been weeks. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it this week, and thank you to Black Sands for making a really cracking Hazy Pale Ale. News happening here is, well, it's Father's Day this weekend, so if you haven't ordered a Father's Day gift from the Beer Jerk website, you're probably too late now to get it delivered in time. But if you wanted to send him a little note in there saying sorry it's late, it will arrive with him at some point soon. We do pay for an overnight service, so there's a chance it might get there in time, but more likely it'll be Monday, Tuesday. You can get a Beer Jerk gift card from our website, so he can buy what he likes, or you can sign him up for a subscription. So he can join in with you drinking your beer of the week every week. And every Thursday he'll get reminded about what an awesome son or daughter you are to have bought a beer of the week subscription. And this Saturday here at the Fridge and Flagon is open every Friday and every Saturday. Do come along. It's like a beer festival every single week. We always have an amazing tap list, hundreds of beers in the fridges. So this Saturday, we've got our friend DJ Apparel Spritz is playing a set of all dad rock on vinyl. So he's having a lot of fun putting that together. So come along, have a beer with us. Bring your dad, or don't. Just come hang out. And lastly, top secret, but every year, the highlight of all New Zealand beer drinkers is the Beer Jerk Premium Advent Calendar. A little bird tells me it's going on pre-sale this Friday. So keep an eye on your emails and nab that as soon as it comes out, because it always sells out pretty quickly. So yeah, me and Joe have been having a really fun time curating all the beers that are going to be going into that. Anyway, I'm going to take a break, drink a beer. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.